what the church is teaching on these life issues, because the Lord will enlighten us and convict us in standing up for what is right, what is moral, what is divine law that should trump any any human law that is against his will, against the morals, and destroys his people. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we ask all this, and we ask for the protection of all our members who are not here, all the participants, protection for all our families, especially in this culture, protection for our leaders, our rulers, in different governments around the world, that there will be conversion of hearts, and also help and hope for all those suffering from all kinds of trials and man-made and natural disasters all over the world, and for all those who try to help them, the first responders, but for the governments to be there to help them out, Lord, rather than enrich themselves or care for the ones that really don't need anything else because they are already, well-to-do. But for the poor and those victims of violence to be the ones to be cared for. We pray this in Jesus' name and with the help of all the angels and saints, especially our Blessed Mother. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. In the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. You have on your table, we have these issues that, you have heard, and the 5 non-negotiable issues, hot button issues, and they are right up there in technology and in the media, and the Knights put together, this acronym FACES to address all of these: fetal stem cell research, human embryos, okay? And you have on your table, I like to give this out because it tells you the stages of life, as early as day 1 right there, as early as, all these weeks leading up to it. It tells you the development of a baby. It's not anything else. It's not a turtle. It's not a, where you are not allowed to disturb the nest of the rare turtle or a dolphin or any of the other animals we're trying to preserve from extinction. And yet, when it comes to the human species, we're allowed to destroy it. Ignore the word. Destroy or kill. Okay. So fetal stem cell research. Is the Catholic Church against stem cell research? The answer is no. See, you have to listen to what is being said, and you have to understand the distinction. Is the Catholic Church against stem cell research? No. It is against fetal stem cell research. It's against killing the embryo, the fetus, to get the cells for purposes of experiments, testing, and whatever other purposes, rather than, bringing that to full term as a baby, a human being. So we can discuss that a little bit more. But the answer is no. As a matter of fact, we have scientists, we have medical personnel, we have people that are in, some of the top scientists, learned scholars about all these things. As you know, the Catholic Church is involved in any branch of science, all branches of science and art. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you, the wisdom involved here and the caliber of people, Catholic inventors and scientists and clergy and all that. But we are not against stem cell research. As a matter of fact, the church allows and advocates the use of adult stem cell research, but is against fetal stem cell research. What is adult stem cell? Is it has to be from adults like us? No. The umbilical cord from the baby, that's already considered adult stem cell. Stem cells from the skin, we get adult stem cells everywhere, and they have so many advances and positive results as far as curing diseases. I mean, have you seen the list of how many diseases are helped by adult stem cell research? Compare it to fetal stem cell research, zero. Zero. Literally, they have not mentioned any disease that has been helped or mitigated, or lessened by fetal stem cell research. The data is right there, staring you in the face. Fetal stem cell, zero. Adult stem cell, you have a whole list, so many, I have to print that out sometime. I think I lost my old copy of it. Okay? So abortion, you guys know that. Catholic Church, the only one that has withstood and will not ever stop standing up for abortion at any stage, is an intrinsic evil. How about rape and incest? We will discuss that, okay? Two wrongs doesn't make it right. Rape, incest, both of those, violation of the dignity of a woman. Horrible. Sin. Mortal sin. Yes. Okay, so what do? A raped woman becomes pregnant. So, does that give her the right to abort the baby? A separate human being, which happens to be residing in her right now, okay? But a separate human being with their own rights. Number one, right to live. Now, that's a sin. That's a violation to her. What do? So now you have the right to kill the rapist? No, you don't. You will be tried. Due process of law. If that's the judgment, fine. But you do not kill the product of that just because you were violated. And remember, in previous years, I have brought guest speakers here. I had a woman that had 4 abortions. Tells you all about the symptoms after all, the post-abortion syndromes, the psychological and emotional turmoil that she experienced. But the church says, okay, we will love you both. Do not choose, to abort the baby so that you could be free and live your lifestyle, number one. Number two, the church will take care of you. We have so many resources. We have more crisis pregnancy centers than abortion facilities. The crisis pregnancy centers will help you, all the medical, involve prenatal, everything. They will put the baby to adoption if you cannot, survive or you cannot take care of the baby. Pregnancy centers, I know personally people that will put that, if she was raped and she was, in high school age and all that, they will put her through high school, give her an apartment, guide her through the whole thing, basically adopting her too. I mean, we have so much help that the kids don't even know we have, because they are fed the lie that this is your only option is abortion, which it is not. Okay. You do not kill the baby even if that was a product of abortion, because as they tell you, those that have experienced that, now you have this person in you who grows up, and this will be the baby that will love you as their mom for life. This person is now a loving person that you gave life to and could have, all that violation. Any woman that gives birth to a baby, you instantly love, you love them as they are there. You don't wait until they're born to love them. The baby is here and you love that baby, your own flesh and blood. That's why they come up with the post-abortion syndrome, a lot of them, and emotional turmoil and cancer and all the medical side effects, detrimental to the woman's health, because this was a life within them. The baby also helps in their own development, in a woman's development. Remember, motherhood is the fullness, okay, of the reproductive system of the woman. So that anything that you do to alter, we're going to talk about the effect of birth control. Anything you do to alter the system of a woman is hurting her system. If it's not natural, it's, artificial birth control, it messes up her system. Hence, all the side effects, okay? All the side effects of abortion and contraception. But it doesn't make it right to kill this because they have their own separate rights. They are separate individual altogether. They have only part of your DNA. You don't have all. They don't have all. You go, it's my body. It's a temporary residence of the baby. This is not your body, it's God's body. That baby's body is not yours either. It's God's, belongs to God. Okay? But they have a right to be born because there's so much help after that. There is so much help, they just don't know it. They're being fed, the lies, and Mother Teresa said, it is a tragedy to kill a baby so that you may live as you wish. She was addressing that to this whole, audience of the Catholic prayer breakfast. And she had a standing ovation. Mother Teresa, old tiny wrinkled Mother Teresa. And, the Clintons were the only ones sitting down and not clapping. Everybody, this is a fact. Everybody stood up, standing ovation. He was president then, and Hillary, they just sat down and got quiet because they were against, they have a different view, okay? So anyways, she said, Mother Teresa said, saying there's too many babies is like saying there's too many flowers. I think I told you at one time when the lie was being propagated that, we don't have enough food in the world and we're overcrowding the world, okay? California, that economy can feed the whole world for I think a year or a couple years. Just California, okay? Space, right? And this is a fact, and great mathematicians and, try this out. But everyone in the world right now can fit in the state of Texas, and still have, I think, 3 square meters around you for each person in the world. That was kind of, but hey, check it out. They did all the math, they did all the calculations, so it's all false. There's no, as a matter of fact, food distribution is the best at this time than it was, just 10, 20 years ago. So that's a fallacy that's been broken, has been, smashed as a lie as far as, production and feeding the people and space. Now, why are there so many poor, malnourished people? Because their governments are not giving them, what they ought to give them to make them survive. Governments are after the bottom line. I'll give you an example, is India again, in my own country. India would export the rice, but not feed the starving children. It's the bottom line. So the income distribution and that is always what's causing it, because the food itself is enough to feed the world if the government leaders would be more efficient. Okay, all of this was all studied to break down, prove the false arguments. Okay, so there's really no reason. And what, Europe, Japan, and Sweden, all these other countries are now below replacement levels because they've been busy aborting all their babies. They're all below, replacement levels of population. Therefore, like Japan, they're in trouble. Who's going to be working in the future? They don't have young ones. They're all being aborted. All they have are senior citizens, or if they're now middle-aged. They don't have, China, limiting the number of kids. So they don't have the future workers. In our case, we don't have the future workers that will contribute to Social Security. We won't have enough labor because we keep killing all the children. And all of us are getting old, we don't have a replacement. So if you get the research done, we have 1 point something, for each family, you have all the statistics of different countries as far as, the replacement for population. A lot of countries are in trouble, and is it Russia now that they have to give incentives to have children? Can you imagine this? They pay you now to have more children because now they see the result of not having the replacement levels of the population.
I was listening to Captain Bader the other day, and it's talking exactly about that, where this gentleman who travels all over the world says that you'd be hard pressed to find a baby carriage being pushed or a bunch of kids going to school in their uniforms in either Italy or France, because it is so bad. You walk the streets of Rome, it's hard to see, or even France, to see little kids, families. He said because they're just not there.
Japan's in trouble. There's something else. Japan is in trouble as far as women. They have less women. There's what one. There's the guys cannot find wives because all the girls are, they prefer boys, males to females as far as, children. So they don't have enough women, and therefore what? Prostitution. And, they have less girls.
They're also saying that the amount of people getting married is almost declining.
Yeah.
Like especially in Japan, they're just, women prefer to have basically a male escort over a boyfriend or, get married.
Yeah. So, it's a slippery slope once you start, all these things, the problems come. We are now reaping the effects of Roe v. Wade 45 years ago, and obviously what the U.S. does, everybody else, copies around the world. So when we started, family planning, which is Planned Parenthood, the lies about that, and so all the third world countries like us, got affected. And remember what these donations from the United Nations, what is that organization, all the agencies, that they will not give the help to those poor countries unless they can also give contraception, or unless they get, trained into the contraceptive methods. Can you imagine that, tying contraception to Africa? Those are the countries.
That's UNICEF.
UNICEF. And, we won't give you this unless you contracept. Forced sterilization of women. My gosh. So, it's the slippery slope. Okay, it comes next is cloning. What, you just heard that, monkeys being cloned now? That's recent, 2 days ago. So monkeys, the primate, so it's not going to be too far where they're going to do humans. And but remember Dolly the sheep years ago? The sheep lived what, 2 weeks or so, something like that. But anyways, so Jen and I are discussing, okay, why are they spending so much money and time and research on cloning? Why don't you just let that woman have her baby? God's plan is easier, faster, safer, better for the planet. And they're doing all this research, and they have to kill a lot of monkeys just to get some results. Okay? So yeah, you don't want that type of monkey to be extinct, and yet you have to do all these experiments on them, on that species, So again, we care too much about the dolphin and the whale and this animal, but we don't care about our own species. Right? You can't touch that. That's against the law. But when it's a baby, a human, it's legal. So why don't you just go with God's plan? It's so much easier. Why are you going to go into cloning, which is expensive, lots of experiments, and takes years before you get success? And after that, what? You can't even maintain that. There's going to be a lot of problems because it is not natural. It is not natural. That's not how God designed it. You are so busy being smart. One of our priests in the past said, we can educate ourselves into imbecility. You become too smart
Also playing God.
Playing God, that's
Making decisions
pride.
when life begins and when life ends.
Pride, again, always playing God. Euthanasia, we're going to discuss that extensively, which is now very popular because it's mercy killing, you know. It's a form of homicide, and it's suicide, okay? No one has the right to take it, but it's my life. You keep forgetting that you were given that, your life belongs to God. It's not yours to end. It wasn't yours to begin. It's not yours to end. It's God's, prerogative. You go, it's my body, it's my life. See all these? My body. Do you recall the Mass? This is my body, the Lord's words. And they're using it, the evil one uses the same terminology. My body. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Then you say, what? This is my life. I have to do what I want. I can do what I want with my body, with my life. See, the devil uses the Lord, everything we use, the Lord uses, the devil uses it, upside down with the opposite intention. So euthanasia, we're going to discuss that. Same-sex homosexual marriage. Again, it's not natural. It was not the plan. This is not how God wants to populate the earth. We always say sex is dirty, sex is, sex is holy. Sex was invented by God. First commandment, increase and multiply. That's the first commandment. He created man and woman. You heard me say this before. He created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. His plan is perfect. Sex is not just great. Sex is not just good. Sex is holy. God's design. When you get a chance, I wish I could do a thing on theology of the body, but we have so many sources. Once you study John Paul II's, Wednesday audiences, and he did this over a series of, and Wednesdays he talks to, the people gathered at Vatican, at the St. Peter's Square, theology of the body. Oh, one of his biggest legacies, the beauty of God's plan, God's creation of one man and one woman. Every couple should go to a theology of the body seminar or series. Oh, I can't tell you, how much you're going to value your spouse, how much your marriage is going to... Theology of the body, okay? From the Catholic Church, folks, we love sex because God made sex. He made it holy. We're the ones that distort it. As far as pornography and all this sexualizing, all the commercials and all these things. I have a DVD that I show sometimes, and I've had controversies in the past. And they go, Aurora, you should not have shown that. And I go, well, you're adults. I want to show you what's going on in the media. I want you to watch that one. I want adults to be watching that one. Have them. It's old, but it applies to the way the media, the commercials, how they manipulate. You already know that they manipulate us, but you're gonna see this because you will learn the depths, how much the evil one and his minions, influence the media, especially the commercials, and how they work on our psychology. And so yeah, parts of it are, you got to be mature to watch that one, and you have to have the right, attitude. But it will teach you so much. I want to expose everyone to that, not to pollute you or what, These are basic common sense things that I want you to know. Anyways, that's very, very touchy. I was made this way with all these tendencies. You were not made that way by God. To this date, they have not discovered a gene that makes you, a homosexual or gay, There is no genetic basis for that. None. They couldn't come up with a basis for that argument. What makes you acquire? The word is acquire. It's the environment. Environment involves what? Everything from when you were little to, all the years after that, and the culture telling you it's okay. Because, now, having the tendency is not a sin. When does it become a sin? When you act on the tendency. Why was Sodom and Gomorrah punished with fire? Right? Fire from heaven, brimstone, sulfur. Why? What is the biggest sin in Sodom and Gomorrah? Hence, we have the word sodomy. If you read the story in the Bible, right? The strangers, they came to Lot's house. Now the whole town, the whole city now wants to take those strangers, they're guys, so that these guys want to lie with them. You know what that means, okay? And so, of course, Lot refused. So they escape. I'm just paraphrasing and making this a quick story. So they flee, and the whole Sodom and Gomorrah were punished with fire. Hence that word. Okay. You read it in so many passages, when we get all those passages as far as, that sin. When you act on it. Temptation, again, is not a sin. We learned that. It's when you act on it. Now, we have the church, again, in her wisdom, the mother church, who nurtures, who educates, and cares for these people. All of us. So anyone that has the tendency, and we have the groups in the church takes care of every problem that we have. It's called courage. The group that, it's a network, and it's a network that helps anyone that has the tendency, and they will tell you a lot of them were, active in that lifestyle, and then they converted, and they're the biggest or the most vocal speakers now, saying what they experienced then and what they experience now after they've been healed. Now that they've found Christ, and his church, they are living holy lives, still sinners, obviously, still struggle with the same sins, but they have that tendency, which is a special struggle, but they are living chaste lives. They are not acting out, and they are so healed. They are living productive and happy lives. And when they get in trouble, the temptations come, they have this network that helps them out. It's called courage.
I have three questions. I don't want to forget it because they're sitting out where I want to ask them. So first question is, the Catholic Church does not believe that people are born homosexual. They believe that it's something that's acquired after birth,
Something else.
that people aren't born.
It could be really early, yes, but there's no genetic.
Okay. The second question is, what is the Catholic Church's view on transsexuality?
That, again, is another thing that's a no-no.
So people who think at 7 years old, my child's acting feminine, it should be a girl, that's
Yeah.
the Catholic Church frowns upon that.
Yeah, because see, now it's on the parent. Everybody, if you study the psychology and all the other sciences about the development of children, at one time or another, it's quite normal that, you know where the word tomboy comes from. We have girls, I think I was one because I had 3 brothers. I had to be tough. I had 3 older brothers. So I was a little tomboyish. So sometimes the environment, okay, but I didn't grow up to, nobody told me that, okay, since you feel that way, so maybe you are going to be, So boys' developments, boys are so attached to their moms, right? You're going to be a mama's boy for I don't know how many years before you become your dad's, right hand. Because, so they have this tendency, they're so attached to the moms, and I don't know how many years, it depends on the person. So as you're growing, you're attached to your mom, you're gonna have those tendencies. Some kids have more tendency than others. Acting out feminine, attitudes or, behavior. That's quite normal. Ask any psychologist and child development. Those are stages and phases they go through. Now, the problem here is when the dad is absent, right? So this boy now, see, it's the environment. This boy has nobody, especially if there are no other father figures, no uncles, no grandmas. So now it's just him and his mom, and involved in everything that the mom does. They get so close, like no other father figures, even the school teachers or the coaches. So that's where the problem begins, and the culture is saying, oh, that's all right. You can have, like, if it's partners, you can have 2 dads and 2 moms. But it's always the culture. So if that is not corrected, or, if he doesn't get, all the help, that's why a man and a woman, a mom and dad are important to be present because of all these phases that this child goes through. So if nothing happens to kind of balance that, so this kid is growing up with these tendencies, and then all the teachers in schools teaching them it's okay, you should cultivate that, and you can buy dresses now. If that goes on, that gets perpetuated, and therefore now he's being brainwashed. I don't know of any other word, but now he's being really trained in that one. He wasn't born with that, but through the development, he got encouraged, or by omission, there's no dad around.
So Mike, I'm going to go more than I want to add here. When it comes to lesbians, 2 women, because we mentioned the word men a lot, because obviously there's an act that men do that's different than what 2 women can do together. I hate to get explicit here, but how does, I always think the Catholic Church, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
uses it the same way, right?
Same way.
Okay.
The women are okay, a lot, and if you think, boy, you need to read a lot more about the history of lesbianism, because those who are in it, there's always something in the past that happened that made them hate guys, whether it's their dad or somebody, or they got abused. This is so, it's mostly an abuse in the background, in the past, that a guy did, or a group of guys or whatever. So they start hating the guy. Obviously now they don't have no guy friends, or maybe no brothers even, that even is worse. Gravitate to the girls. They're the ones that, emotionally understand you. They are kind, they're compassionate, da-da-da. Then you have strong feelings. They're the only ones always helping you. What is supposed to be deep friendship now can more get, into love in the wrong definition of love. Because, again, John Paul II, love between a man and a woman. What they're actually feeling is deep, deep friendship. But then the culture around them and a lot of other factors, push them into that kind of a relationship. Now, the built-in desire to be a mother, to be a full woman, full womanhood is motherhood, whether it's biological or spiritual motherhood. So that desire is in this woman. So you see now to us again, right? What do? They go and adopt kids. They do surrogate motherhood, all that stuff, because they still want a child. They can't have it, just having 2 women. They still need a guy. Whether it's a surrogate motherhood, a guy still needs to impregnate, still has to have, relations with a woman so she could have a baby, so she could adopt the baby. Or she can still get pregnant by a man, but understanding there's not going to be any marriage. I just want to be a mother, but I'm going to stay with this woman who is my wife. But the dad, you were used to just get me pregnant and then you're gone. Because we as 2 women would want to raise this child by ourselves. I'm telling you, it's the slippery slope. You still need a guy anyway. but you just don't want him in the picture. So, I mean, all these other arrangements, surrogate motherhood, and petri dish, which we're gonna discuss, IVF, in vitro fertilization.
So real,
Follow up.
there's two more things. So, when it comes to the issue of a man and a man, or a woman adopting a child, since the Catholic Church is so against the relationship to begin with, how do they view parents like that adopting a child when the child could have maybe gone to an abusive home instead? Because a lot of people have the
Yeah,
argument
yeah,
that
yeah.
two gay parents can make
Yeah.
great parents for a
Yeah.
child that didn't have another home.
Yeah, yeah. If you understand that a child needs a man and a woman to serve as mother and father in the right, actually a man and a woman. I've read something where, this is deeper though, that it is actually an abuse of the child already because you've deprived them of a father or you've deprived them of a mother.
So the Catholic Church would frown upon a child being adopted by a gay family.
Yeah, of course it's very tricky because you're right. What if this baby was abandoned by their parent and nobody would adopt them except a gay couple, right? So they're raising the child, they have deprived the child from the very beginning of a mother or a father. So that will affect their development. But as far as the physical health, they have helped this child. Now you gotta look at the long-term effects, okay? So material health and physical health, as you know, are temporary. But the emotional, the psychological, and the spiritual health will affect this child forever. So there is a balance. If this is good, this is, like every instance is obviously, a separate case, a separate case. But, at the get-go, this is already depriving the child of a mother or a father. Now, the dad's a deadbeat, I'm gonna live with another woman in order to raise this kid, I mean, there's so many factors here. But at the onset and the basic teaching would be,
So,
it's still a sin, right? Because them living together is already a sin. The child's gonna be raised again thinking this is normal, so the child will grow up, this is normal. So all of the studies, some of the kids that have grown up in lesbian families or gay families have also spoken out and said, revealed all their problems growing up. There are studies, and that's why you need to read a lot more about this, because you have accounts from children who grew up in those households, and they tell you all the problems. Now, of course, you'll have some that will say, no, everything's fine, okay? So you'll have all those forces, two sides all the time. But at the get-go and basic teaching, no, it's already a sin living with somebody, in that type of a relationship is already a sin.
I guess my other question is, how can homosexual be confirmed in the Catholic Church, if that's the Catholic Church's viewpoint?
How can what?
How can a homosexual be confirmed in the Catholic Church?
Well, they're not acting out their tendencies.
But they are. I know plenty of Catholics that are homosexual or confirmed
Well,
Catholics.
did they lie to?
I have no idea.
We don't know, because,
But why would they want to be part of the Catholic Church?
because, believe it or not, probably in their heart of hearts, they know this is the true church. Okay? Because what's funny is the church says, these are our teachings. If you can't accept them, everything's voluntary. Because, it has to be your mind and heart accepting all the teachings. Now, like you have these politicians, pro-abortion, but still saying they're devout Catholics. Okay? Your free will kicks in. You still know in your heart, this is what I want to belong to. I know this is true, but I just don't accept the cafeteria Catholic. I just don't accept this teaching. I will do what I please over here, but I still want to be a member of this church, of this organization, if that's how you want to look at it, and still have the benefits of this group, okay? Still have the prestige of this group. But if the church knows this, the church cannot give the sacraments knowingly to somebody who is in active sin. If the church knows, to protect the soul of the person. We're after souls. That's why we have the confessional. You know, that's why we have the priest saying, you know, don't, you know, Paul says, simple, do not approach the Eucharist. You know, you have to examine yourself, because in Corinthians, if you receive the body and blood of the Lord unworthily, you are drinking and eating condemnation upon yourself. The church will not give sacraments knowingly to somebody who is in active sin. So that's why I said, did they lie? Because they can't.
So it's possible that you have someone who may be gay, who may not be having sex with someone else that's gay, and therefore they're not committing a sin
Yeah.
because they know they're gay, but they're
Yeah.
abstaining from
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
they
That may
do
be
not
the case.
live that out and live with, like, courage is that support network for them to, I know personally somebody who lives in Las Vegas who was active. And you know what? He serves in the church, and then sometimes in the past he would call me, Aurora, can we talk? Yes. We talk until 2 a.m. because he is in a situation where he can't, help me out, I am struggling right now, and we talk, and we talk, and we talk until he's okay, because he's struggling. I'm not in that network of courage, but he calls me out. He is so active in the church now, he's so convicted. He is now a help to all his friends who are active. And they know how to behave. When he's around, he says, they don't cuss. They don't talk about those things, but they gravitate to him now because of his kindness, his compassion, and he's catechizing them. He's catechizing them now. He's teaching them about what the church, and he's gaining a lot of friends who he thinks are getting more and more away from their lifestyle. But there were times in the past when he's in trouble, and he calls and we just talk through it and we pray and we cry together. They have the struggles, but they know where to go. And, this man, I'm telling him, I want to invite him, I'm encouraging him to talk and tell the story, once he finds the courage to kind of relate. I said, I'll help you do the script. You tell me what you want to say, and I'll help you organize it a little bit so that it's a nice flowing account of your experience. But he hasn't found the courage, but he's good with one-on-one, his friends, But yes, we have a lot of those. As long as you're not living that lifestyle, you struggle with the sin, find the help you need.
I was just gonna say, when this topic comes up on Catholic Answers and some of the other shows on Catholic radio, they try not to use terms like he or she is gay
Yeah.
or lesbian.
Yeah.
They try to talk about same-sex attraction
Yeah.
because it's a disorder that someone has. It is not who they are. Although those in the gay lifestyle say, that's who I am. I don't define myself as heterosexual. I'm an
Yeah.
accountant, I'm a father,
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's the culture around them.
Yes.
Gay used to be happy, you're happy, and then they make it into something else.
Is that man now living a chaste life?
He's very chaste. He tells me about his other friends that he's talking to. He's chaste man. He's in a prayer group. He is an acolyte in church.
Chaste life or the chaste life?
Chaste.
Chaste? Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Chastity.
Yeah, he's
Gotcha.
celibate. He's celibate,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Development,
So
okay.
now he finds his fulfillment in helping out at church. He's helping out, and he loves to serve. When the bishop is around, he serves at the cathedral. But man, he is just so active in prayer. I mean, when you talk to him now, you better go get some courses. He is really growing in the faith. But when he struggles, they struggle. But he's so busy now in church, and he's reading a lot. So you have to replace. You know, when you're lonely and you're alone, and that's when you get in trouble. That's where you need a network of friends, you know. You need the prayers of the body of Christ.
One of the things that President said, which was important, was the fact that when we find the problem about, let's say there was a child at Catholic Relief Services or at some Catholic thing that comes from an abused family, that church, that group is set up to try to make that child eligible for a Catholic family. And if two gay people come in and do it, they refuse them, and the government wants to shut them down. You know, and take away the money and shut them down. That's the religious freedom thing. But the fact of the matter is, the church is ready for those children to go to a family, whether it's through the AIDS for Women or whatever. We have the resources.
We have
That's
a
why-
waiting list
We have the
for
resources.
those
make
waiting
it
to
happen.
adopt.
It's not
There's
like
a
we're
waiting list.
throwing them away, but it's usually when they're being, attacked by somebody who wants to try to change the way we are, and that's not gonna work, because the church will never change this.
Where is this organization, in what state? This is probably a couple years ago.
Well, I've had a couple of them in Boston.
That's Boston, where, the government told them they cannot refuse adoption
Right.
by same-sex
Right. Shut you
couples.
down.
And you know what?
It's like
Or
the Little
else you
Sisters.
shut down, and they shut down, because they cannot violate Catholic
And they're
teaching.
filing religion, just like the Little Sisters of the Poor. I mean, it's the same sort of
Yeah.
a problem.
Little
And
Sisters
Trump
of the Poor.
recently fixed that, for
Right.
the Little Sisters
Right.
of the Poor.
Right, and he did. And one other thing I want to mention also, which is important too, about the church and also believers, is that we have just now taken away, stopped funding Mexico City program,
Yeah, the policy, Mexico City policy.
which was a $50 million or so check to them to help them with abortion.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
See, why are we giving to
Exactly.
another country to help them
Cut it
abort their babies? We're so generous,
So that's,
right?
my point is that we have to have the integrity to stand behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's take a break right now. Then I'm gonna go through the other things quickly.